4 more days till Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. 4 more days till Halloween, Silver Shamrock. What is up, everybody? Station, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm your host for today. I am Rockin Robbie Billups, and this is the Rex and the Robbie and the Amy Show. And today we're going to be talking about our favorite scary movies just in time for Halloween. You can't have the Rex and the Robbie and the Amy Show without Rex and Amy, so there they are. How are y'all doing?
The singing, that was a first.
This is already the best episode of all time.
Well, the singing was scary. I gotta say that.
Well, you know, it's a reference to Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, which we are covering on Dylan's Horror Show tomorrow night for the grand finale of Horror Fest. We got some great shows lined up, so let me get through this real quick. Tomorrow night on Dylan's Horror Show, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Sunday night on PCP, Dracula, the original by Bela Lugosi and Todd Browning. Monday night on PCP, the entire Saw franchise, all 10 films reviewed. And then the grand finale on Tuesday night, Halloween at Blood Splatter Chatter with Rob Zombie's Halloween. And he couldn't pick a worse movie to end it on. Anyway, how are y'all doing, Amy and Rex? Y'all having a good week?
Well, this is the most excited I've seen her all week. However, Amy, can you do me a favor? Can you turn that bag sideways? Because Wawa's not paid Robbie for that free endorsement.
Just do it like this. Sorry.
However, if Wawa would
So you
like to
can't-
contribute to Pop Culture Philosophers with a sponsorship, we could turn that bag around.
Yeah,
Just
I know
saying.
that. I know the season's coming for the Gobbler, so like I've never had one of those.
Oh,
so
dude.
if
all
they-
the time.
The Gobbler, that, Robbie, you're a month late. They open up with the Gobbler like at the beginning of October. So I've had myself probably 10. Since that time. It is very starchy, though, I got to tell you.
just throw one in a box, tape it up, and send it my way. Well, hopefully it will be okay when it gets here.
Sure. If you don't see Robbie next week, you know what happened. Food poisoning.
Exactly. Robbie ate some bad Wawa. I was somewhere. Where was I? Where I saw Wawa? I think I was in Florida when I was at MegaCon. I think I saw them.
They have invaded Florida. That was your opportunity.
Yeah, well, when I go back there at the beginning of February for MegaCon, I got to make sure to hit the Wawa is what I got to do. So
Yes.
there you go.
You will find it to be a great experience because you're a newbie. Okay. For us, it's like every day, man. So it's getting a little bit stale. That's why I'm such a big fan of Sheets.
I'm going
And
to
I'm
get
sure
it.
people that have nothing but Sheets in their territory would go wow at Wawa. They're just different.
I'm going to get in there and I'm going to be like, so what? It's like a 7-Eleven or a Mapco or something or a Love's? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, they're gonna throw you out.
They'll
The
throw me
Wawa
out.
bounce is gonna toss you right out, dude.
Do y'all don't have Buc-ee's up there, do you?
No, I have heard of Buc-ee's. Every time, I'm not sure where they are, but the last trip to Myrtle Beach, I tried to find one, but it turned out it was way too far. So, Comic Culture. Oh my gosh, dude, we can't be friends now. But I couldn't find one. But I've heard about them. I know that they're huge. They're huge.
Everybody down here talks about them all the time. I think they originated in Texas, and I think it's more of a southern thing right now. And we've been getting them in our areas, and they're basically just giant, convenience stores, right? If you need to get gas, there's plenty of pumps, stuff like that. But what's crazy is they have all these like options of food and candy and all that stuff, and it was great. I had a burrito; it was good. But I'll tell you what, dude, if you have any kind of social anxiety, don't go to a Buc-ee's because it is just filled with people, like filled. Like I was just like, I gotta get out of here. I was like, this is too much for me.
They sell a lot of merch too, don't they? Like T-shirts and all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah, they sell a lot of merch, and a lot of people take photos there, and it's like a big cultural thing down here, which is so weird to me. They built one in like a couple towns over, and it literally like revitalized that community, right? So it's like the Walmart of gas stations.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, we're losing y'all. We're losing y'all.
go for one.
All right, I don't know exactly what you
Are we
said
back?
because I was losing y'all for a second there.
Yeah,
Are
we're
you
losing
back?
you too. Yeah, we're back now.
No, I'm losing you. You're not losing me. I'm still here, brother. Man, we made it the whole Monday show with no problems. Where's Mariano? That's what we need. We need Mariano in here, man. Like,
Well, whatever. Okay.
He's the good luck charm. All right, well, Rex, I just
Um,
you always give me shit about the Cowboys, so I just want to say this very
mhm,
honestly and from the bottom of my heart. I am
mhm.
very sorry for your Phillies. I would have never predicted that it was going to be the D-backs and the Rangers for the World
I
Series.
don't think anybody did. But for the Phils, you know what? It's a great season, great couple of seasons. A lot of people are upset. The odds of making the World Series on any level is pretty small. But they were living and dying off the home run. Make comparisons being made between Harper and Castellanos, with Ruth and Gehrig. Look, who really honestly thought that they were going to continue to hit Ruth Gehrig type of numbers? That's not realistic. I love Harper. I love Bryce Harper. I love the guy, the player, the personality, the way that he's accepted the city and the team. But dude, he's no Babe Ruth or Lou Gehrig yet. Maybe, I don't know. But so the odds were saying that you cannot live and die in the bat. And I think Rob Thompson was he was gambling that it would come back, and it didn't. It's small ball, and that's what the Diamondbacks did that game, which I thought was the smart thing to do. So, but whatever. People are disappointed, but that's part of it. So,
Eccentric Liquid, we are talking about scary movies, but I just had to reach out to my homie because I understand what it feels like. My Yankees didn't even make the postseason this year. Lakers 2 games in, we're 1-1, we're 500. Hell yeah, that's awesome. So, all right,
you all need to get rid of Cashman. You know it.
Oh yeah, because real quick before we get into the show. So the big thing amongst Yankee fans right now is that Brian Cashman was like, you know what? First of all, we had the chance to get Bryce Harper, right? And he's all like, he wouldn't be a good fit. Think he's past his prime. Bruh. Yeah, Brian, you don't know what you're talking about, man. Apparently. So anyway.
So,
all right.
you guys need to get rid of Cashman, start fresh, but he's been there too long.
I think we need to get rid of Cashman and Boone, and I hate to say that. I'm never the guy to tell people that we need to fire our coach unless it's Mike McCarthy. I'm never that guy, but Boone, it just hasn't worked. I don't think we should have ever let go of Girardi, to be honest. I think we could have built around him.
I would kind of agree with that. He didn't work with the Phils, but I think as a Yankees coach, it's a little different. He was a Yankee, so it's kind of a different. When he came to Philly, it just didn't work out. He whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, ain't nobody coaching the Yankees. Ain't nobody going to manage the Yankees that ain't a former Yankee player. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just kind of part of our culture, right? So
yeah.
And the thing is, with Aaron Boone, I'm like, all right. I was like, I keep thinking to myself, how did Aaron Boone get this job? Oh, that's right. He hit that home run against the Red Sox in like 2003 or whatever, right? So like that's the one thing that Aaron Boone's got. I like Aaron Boone. I think he's solid, but we did get rid of the hitting coach, which I think is going to be probably good because that was a big problem in the second half of the year. Yeah.
I agree.
All right. We're talking about scary movies. We're boring Amy to tears. So let's move on. And this was Amy's idea. Amy mentioned when we did the show a few weeks ago where it was just me and her, she was like, hey, I would love to do something about scary movies, horror movies. That's my jam. That's my vibe. I was like, me too. Anytime. She's like, let's do it close to Halloween. Halloween is Tuesday. We're talking about our favorite horror movies right now, our favorite scary movies, or our favorite scary movies to watch during Halloween, which may be a little bit different than just overall, because I could just load them up with black and white Universal monster movies and feel safe. But we're gonna have a fun show today. So Amy, I want you to kick us off. I want to know, what are your favorite scary movies to watch during Halloween? Just kick us off.
During Halloween, well, just like you said, besides the Universal monster ones, and I picked the main, I picked Dracula, I picked Frankenstein, and there's so many, it's like you pick the good ones kind of over like the ones that aren't so great. But those are definitely have become a Halloween staple for me. Even though it's not scary, I love What We Do in the Shadows, the movie. It's a comedy, but I like it's so much fun to watch at Halloween. If we're more on the scary side, I love to like me and my mom have certain ones that we like watching together. A recent one that came out a few years ago, The Witch.
That's a great movie, Amy. Yeah. Have you seen the movie? It's from the 80s. I think it's a Spanish film, but it's in English, but it's called Eyes of Fire. Have you seen that?
I have not.
I found out about it In Search of Darkness. If anybody wants to know anything about horror movies, especially stuff from the 80s, there's this documentary series called In Search of Darkness. They've done three they've done three of them, right? And they're all like over 4 hours long. They're all very much in depth. They all have people that were there, actors, directors, writers, special effects artists, all these people being interviewed, talking about all these movies. And in part 3, they had really already gone over most of the 80s horror movies that everybody knows. So in part 3, they did all these ones that nobody knows about. They did a lot of films from Thailand. They did a lot of films from Spain. And they did this movie. They talked about this movie called Eyes of Fire. And it was the first one that I watched. And I was like, I gotta buy that movie. That looks amazing. And when I watched it, I was like, Robert Eggers had to have watched this movie before he made The Witch, because it's got so much of the DNA of The Witch inside of it, but done at an earlier period. And I just recently showed my good friend Jamie it, and she's a huge fan of The Witch. And she immediately picked up on it. She was like, this is like The Witch a little bit, but it's about a family that gets excommunicated from their community and village because of religious differences or whatever. And they go off trying to make their own way out there in the wilderness. And they choose a forest or a plot of land near the home of a witch, right? And it is gnarly. It is awesome. It's got great special effects. I would highly recommend that one, Amy, if you like The Witch.
Is it the same, like really the same plot, or?
It's a different movie, right? It's a different movie, but you can definitely tell that Robert Eggers, I think, picked up some influence from this movie in particular.
Okay.
Like if you watch The Shining and then watch Eyes of Fire, everything he does makes sense, pretty much.
Okay. This intrigues me. I like this. Thank you.
Yeah, you need to check that one out. Write it down, Eyes of Fire. I'll send you a link. You'll love it. Trust me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I had to do that.
All right. Like I do love kind of celebrating films from all decades. Like, and I try my best to pay attention to like all the newer stuff that's coming out. I mean, as far as the recent horror movies go, my favorite one from the past decade's Hereditary. That movie rocks. Because you're not quite the same after watching it. It's one of those movies. You're not quite the same.
Jamie shared a list with me, Amy, that was like the top 10 scariest movies according to science, right? Where they like have people watch movies and they're like checking their like anxiety levels, their heart rate, stuff like that. All of them were like newer movies, and I don't necessarily agree with them, but that was the one movie that both of us were like, yes, that is the most like anxiety ridden movie ever. When I watched it for the first time just a couple of years ago, actually, I missed it when it first came out, and somebody picked it. Mike, my buddy Mike, picked it for Crew's Choice here for a movie night, and I watched it and I was like, this is brilliant. This is absolutely brilliant. Have you seen Ari's new one, Beau is Afraid? I haven't seen that one yet.
It's on my watch list. It's definitely on my watch list. But I'm definitely keeping tabs on Ari Aster, Robert Eggers, Jordan Peele. I'm keeping an eye out, and I also got to keep an eye out on the brothers who did Talk to Me, because I just watched that recently, and that was insane.
We almost watched that last night. I was hanging out with some dear friends, and my friend Jamie was like, let's watch that Talk to Me movie, because that was on that list too that we were talking about, and we were gonna watch it, but we were drinking tequila, and our friend Lulu was like, wait, do I have to pay attention to it? We're like, yeah, probably. And she's like, well, let's watch something else. So we watched Heavy Metal instead. But Talk to Me is on my list. It's one of the next ones I'm going to watch for sure, because I hear great things about it.
It's just very smartly done movie, because it's like, it's because it's it's one of those movies, like, it's very mostly practical, very little probably CG's involved in it, like, and the acting, like every single person in this movie is doing a stellar job with what they're given, and it's crazy. And again, I can go on about newer ones, but I'm trying to think about the movies I grew up on.
Yeah.
Essentially. Even though it's a musical, one of my favorite films of all time is Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, the movie adaptation of the musical, and that was my first rated R movie that I saw in a theater. I had to beg my parents to take me to see it. So that was a special one for me.
Wow, how things have changed.
I worked at a movie stop when that one was released on DVD, and I was watching it with my sister at our grandmother's house, and me and my sister were just loving it. We're singing along because we're a fan of the musical, and my grandmother was just like, "Y'all watch some weird stuff." I love that one. You, sir, too, sir. How about a shave? Come and visit your good friend Sweeney. Yeah, I love Sweeney Todd. That's a really good one to watch for Halloween too. And that one's not. I was about to say that one's not super gnarly, so you can watch it with your family. But I don't know. Then I started thinking about it. There's a lot of blood in that one. Have you ever seen that on stage? It's really wild. It's cool.
The Broadway, they just revived it for Broadway, and I saw it this past summer. I loved every second of it. It's so great. And I know, and there's people out there who aren't really musical people. And what I liked about the movie adaptation, it does take things a little bit more seriously, because sometimes Broadway show, you're very out there, you're cracking, there's jokes, especially during the one song. They joke about, the whole Little Priest song. They're making jokes every other second, but the movie, they tone it down, they take it very seriously. That was what I thought was very, like I said, that was a very smart way to take it. So people who were new to the musical can watch this movie and go, oh wow, this is really good. And so obviously OUG is a Sweeney Todd fan as well. That's awesome. But yeah, the stage show is great and the movie's great. I love it, love it, love it.
I've been putting notes together for our Horror Fest lineup for next year because I'm already figuring out all of 2024's movies that we're talking about. I'm going to write down a note to myself. Sweeney Todd. We've never done a musical for Horror Fest, but that would be a good one. 100%. We did Repo the Genetic Opera this year for my birthday. Have you seen that one?
That's on the watch list too. I've heard good things.
It's really good. Do you like the the middle Saw movies, like Saw 2, 3, and 4 by any chance?
Saw's not for me. Saw's not for me. Just being honest.
Well, the director of Saw 2, 3, and 4 is the director of Repo the Genetic Opera, and the reason why Darren did those Saw movies was so that he could have the clout to get Repo made. And Repo is his passion project, and it is awesome. Art. Bill Moseley is in it. Paris Hilton does a great job. Of course, she's playing a Paris Hilton type character. Sarah Brightman's in there. She's glamorous, and her voice is amazing. Paul Sorvino is in it. It's such a great film. You definitely got to check it out.
I'll put that on the list as well. Eyes of Fire, Repo, Genetic Opera.
Yeah, I'm going to give you, you're going to leave with like a list of like 30 movies by the end of the show, I'm sure.
Great. That's really great.
All right, those are some really good movies to pick, and we'll get back to you. But now we got Rex over there. I don't think Rex has seen any of these movies we're talking about. I don't know. Maybe he has.
I have not seen, Amy and I were just talking about this before the show started. I really have not seen any horror movies since the 90s. I don't know what it is. The genre no longer.
You watch People Under the Stairs, and Rex was like, "I'm done. This is the height of horror movies. I'm done."
It wasn't one particular movie or anything like that. Something, I don't know. Something kind of shifted in the sense that I was telling Amy what I told my daughter when she was little, and she was afraid of ghosts and monsters and things like that. And I guess somewhere this is where this developed in the 90s in my mind. And I explained to her, I said, look, I said, I've never heard definitively that a ghost or monster or anything like that has ever killed any human being. Okay? But every day in the news, living people are hurting other living people. I said, the living are far more scary than a ghost, okay, or a monster. And I think that's what I really believe. So the movies, I don't know, didn't really scare me anymore in that sense. So I kind of stopped watching. But my mom was a huge horror movie fan, so I grew up around it. So everything that I would put on a list is probably going to be 90s and prior. And they did have like pivotal moments. So the list I put together, like Halloween, 1978. That was probably, and the reason I laughed when Amy said she had to bug her parents to go see an R-rated film. Back in my day, brah, they didn't care. They didn't check. Clearly, we were not 18. Okay, 4 friends. I told my mom going to a friend's house. We all get on the bus and go to Center City, Philadelphia, down Chestnut Street, which had a ton of movie theaters that were old, like vaudeville kind of theaters that got converted. And we went up, presented our money, and we were all nervous because we were all like, 12, whatever. And we all thought we were going to get caught. And we gave the woman our money. She gave us a ticket, didn't even look twice. In we go. And we thought we had just gotten away with a bank robbery. Okay. So Halloween for me was the first horror film that I went to in a movie theater. And we were all kids and we didn't have our parents around. And it was scary. It was scary. I mean, so it left an impression on me, and it has all through all those years. It's just first real horror film, R-rated movie that we snuck into, if you want to call it. Well, we walked up to the ticket booth, gave her money, and she gave us a ticket, if you want to call that sneaking in. So that always, and Jamie Lee Curtis, of course, we all walked out. We all had a crush on Jamie Lee Curtis by that point. So that was just memorable in that sense.
Well, Halloween is a watershed moment for horror films, 100%, because like you had been building up to it with like the French film Diabolique, and then you had Psycho, and then you had Black Christmas, but Halloween really kind of cemented this idea of the knife wielding slasher going around killing teenagers one by one. Friday the 13th took that formula and ran with it throughout the 80s. You know what I'm saying? And Halloween, like I love the Friday the 13th series, but Halloween is such a sophisticated level way above that with its use of tension and music and atmosphere and mood.
Yeah, and it was really first in that genre. Everybody else kind of followed behind it. It kind of opened up the doors. And Friday the 13th did not make my list, but I remember watching that as well. But it just felt like everybody was copying the original, and then the original tried to outdo the copies.
And there's so many. Well, just as we were saying earlier, there's so many. Like each decade had its like quintessential horror movie, and there's so many movies that came after that haven't tried to copy it since. So many Halloween copies, so many Exorcist copies, so really monster movie copies. Like even the early, like even when Dracula and Frankenstein just came out, I do research and there's all these little movies that no one's ever heard before, but it's always involves the mad scientist or some kind of bloodsucking. Like they're all wannabes.
Even the original Boris Karloff, Karl Freund Mummy movie is just a carbon copy of Dracula plot wise. If you really look at it, if you think about it, like put Imhotep in Dracula's perspective, it's the same movie in a way. Even Universal was like, oh man, what a success. Tunk, kunk, kunk. Let's just make a bunch of these
movies. Oh boy, they really were the same thing over and over again.
It became a cookie cutter, like a Xerox machine. Just they kept let's bring in the money. Just keep churning them out. Okay, get those bandages, wrap somebody up. Let's go. And it was working for a while. Comic culture, haunted hotel. All right, that's a good segue. So another movie on my list is of course The Shining. It was. During that period in 1980, we were going to movies a lot, without our parents and stuff. So, and Stephen King became a defining author of horror, so we were all reading his books and stuff like that. Then later on, with my daughter, we actually visited the Stanley Hotel in Estes, Colorado, which is at the entrance to Rocky Mountain National Park. And there we go. Bummer.
No, I just got to step away for just a second. Please continue on, man. I'm right here.
All right. Okay. I wasn't sure what happened. So, so we went there on a fluke because we couldn't get into Rocky Mountain National Park. There wasn't enough time. The line of cars to get in, I was told, was an hour. So we hit the tour, and that was awesome. It was a great tour. They didn't actually shoot the movie there, but Stephen King got his inspiration Marcus, that would be Amy's breakfast. They didn't actually shoot the movie there, but Stephen King and his wife did get trapped on the way back to Boulder at the hotel, which in the 70s, which at the time was a failing business. It was losing money, and they were closed for the season. And the only place to kind of huddle up was at the hotel. And he was there with a skeleton staff, with his wife, and that's when he got the inspiration to write The Shining. And they were getting ready to close down for the season because they would close down for because it was in financial straits, and it was for many years after that. Even after The Shining became a book and a movie, and then eventually they turned it around, it became a real tourist destination, and it is this day. It was the greatest tour. Cool. Felt like there was an interesting episode where a door slammed as we were taking a tour. And I was looking on the way out at the door jam, looking for the Disney animatronics kind of mechanism. Nothing there. And it was weird. It was weird. I have to tell you. But that was the greatest time of all. So to me, The Shining has a personal connection as well. Because not only did I watch the movie when it first came out, and obviously very scared, but to have that connection with the Stanley Hotel years later was really cool. And that was a fluke. My daughter just pointed to its big building sitting up on the mountain on the way to the entrance to National Park, and she's like, "Let's go there." And I'm like, "Okay, well, why not? Let's go
What's
there."
that place, Dad? Right? And you're like, "Oh, it's where the whole Shining is based on." I love The Shining. Like we've talked about that. We talked about that last year when we talked about our favorite ghost movies, right?
Right.
When I was going through that list that my friend sent me, one of the first things I asked her, I was like, "Where's The Shining?" The Shining is a genuinely creepy movie to me because you can look at it as a supernatural kind of movie, right? And it's got ghosts and it's about this haunted hotel. Possession is a part of it. But like, honestly, if you just took the idea of the ghost as like maybe an analogy or a metaphor for like alcoholism or any other kind of like demons that we battle with, that's a scary movie about a dude with his family locked away from everybody else who's losing it. You know what I'm saying? And such a great movie, a real movie. And we were, Amy's been talking a lot about the A24 cats, Robert Eggers, Ari Aster, like all of them were like The Shining. We're always trying to do The Shining. And like A24 would not exist without that movie. And I think it's Stanley Kubrick's second best film. I think it's absolutely brilliant.
What do you think is his best film?
2001.
Fair enough.
Interesting.
Yeah, fair enough. I would say that I would agree with you about 2001.
2001 is just such a.
It was prophetic.
Yeah.
And so many things that and it was. Think about it a little bit.
Though some people think his best movie, Rex, is the moon landing. Because so there you go.
I would say his second best movie though is probably Full Metal Jacket.
That's a great movie. It's a weird movie structurally though, right? Because here's the thing, and maybe this is the point of the movie, but the first half of Full Metal Jacket, where they're like in training, right? That is way heavier than when they get to war. And maybe that's the point of the film in a way, is like by the time they get to war, we as an audience are desensitized to it a little bit.
His films are always very cerebral. He tackles something that other people have tackled, but in a different way. All right. OUG. I would say Clockwork Orange was probably number 3. Okay. So 2001, because it was so prophetic, he was making so many statements, so many things have come to life. Okay. Video telephone call, the guy's making from the moon to talk to his daughter, that kind of thing. Now we have, now it's come true, right? Not quite in the way he envisioned, but it's true. FaceTime, whatever, Zoom, whatever you want to call it, right? It exists. There are things you get wrong, like he did not properly calculate the rate of inflation as he was making a video call from the moon to his house. I think it was what, $5? Okay, you can't even get a cup of coffee at Starbucks for $5, let alone make a video call from the moon to the Earth. But there's so many things, and obviously the obelisk and what it represents. It was just such a great movie. Full Metal Jacket, as you said, the boot camp and all of that stuff and going to war, and it was just so well done. Clockwork Orange, obviously, dystopian future, that kind of thing, society on its head. So I personally, I'm a big Kubrick fan, you know, because his movies make you think. Definitely not something you want to watch while you've been taking shots of tequila. Okay, need to pay attention.
Probably. You can watch The Killing maybe while drinking tequila, but that's probably the only Kubrick
tequila,
film.
I suggest Dolph Lundgren, He-Man. Good movie to watch when you've been drinking heavily. Okay.
I know that movie is great. That or Bloodsport, you know, just go with any of those, right?
Another one. Yeah, not a lot of dialogue. Don't need it. Okay, hit somebody, please. Okay.
Absolutely. What else you got on that list?
All right. So one that obviously I saw years later, The Exorcist, 1973. Okay. So the reason, there was no way my mom was going to let me see that movie or take me to that movie. I was 8 when it came out. But what made an impression on me was all the kids at school that claimed that they had watched it. So I imagine they were, you know, hearing things from the adults talking about it or older siblings or whatever. Okay. But everybody came into school acting like they watched The Exorcist. We were all 8 years old, man. Okay. What are the odds of that? Very, very low. But it was the cool thing to say. So you act like the cool thing, you know, the cool guy or the cool person. Oh, yeah, I saw The Exorcist, right? I think by the end of that, before the end of that year, I was telling people I saw it too, and I hadn't seen it, obviously, just to be cool. Years later, I saw it, and obviously, I was like, okay, I get it. Okay, I know why everybody wanted that badge of I watched The Exorcist when they came into school that day. But what are you going to say?
I mean, OUG's comment, Rosemary's Baby. That to me is scariest movie of all time.
Yes, that
for me
was,
personally,
that was
that's the scariest movie of all time.
Nothing
made me shudder as much as I watched that movie for the first time. Like, and I watched it on a whim.
Look in that cradle.
I watched it on a whim, just because it was, it's a famous horror movie. Let me finally watch it. And at the end of the movie, I was just like,
yeah, that I have to admit was that was scary. It should have made my list.
That's a great movie, and it's very effective because, like, I have a dear friend who is pregnant right now, and there are a lot of people that come out of the woodwork like, oh, I have advice, I have information, I want to be there, I want to help you. And like, there's nothing scarier to me in Rosemary's Baby. It's not the fact that she's having this like antichrist demonic devil baby or anything like that. It's the way everybody around her is acting, right?
First they want to help her, but then she's so isolated because people are calling her crazy, and that really is one of the most terrifying things I think I could ever think of. Is like, you're so alone when people don't believe you.
Yeah,
you can't
it's
get
like
help.
It's like Rosemary's Baby, aka gaslighting the movie, right? Like, that's exactly what that is, man.
And movies that do that so well are some of the most terrifying things to me. Like, another one that made me think of is Body Snatchers, because you don't know who to trust. If so, all of a sudden, no one's who you think they are, and they're all against you, and you're screwed. And it's
all right. So, like, when you talk about Body Snatchers, which version do you have in your head? Is it the Donald Sutherland one, where at the end he's like, "Oh," and all that?
That is a good one, but I also have a soft spot for the '50s one, because I think that's a good movie too.
With Kevin McCarthy, that's a great film. Holy cow! See, Amy, I knew that we'd get along very well.
I knew so too.
We need to go drink tequila and watch horror movies sometime, Amy.
I'm in.
All right. When I come up there, I'll say, "What's up, Rex? What's up, John? What's up, Nick?" Me and Amy are going to go drink tequila and watch horror movies. Y'all are not invited. So
yeah,
let's go.
If there's not a bottle of tequila for me, I'm going to be really upset. I'm just saying. So, all right. Well, first horror movie I ever saw, and it was kind of a fluke. I'm at a buddy's house. Parents are all up in the kitchen, and we turn it on. Okay. And I am just sitting there on the edge of the couch, just terrified. It would be Night of the Living Dead, the Romero version from 1968, because by that point you could catch it on TV. So I don't know, sometime in the 70s. I don't remember what year exactly. I remember being terrified. I remember being that being really, to my recollection, the first horror movie I ever saw.
Really?
Yeah. So because at that point I was young, man. So it came out in 68. So it was a fluke. My mom did not know. She would not have been happy.
And I know that's the movie that really made it, like, that made zombies. Like, before then,
I'm like,
were just,
what
like,
the hell is this?
It created an entire genre. It created a new movie monster, if you really think about it. Zombies pre Night of the Living Dead were like voodoo zombies. We're talking about like White Zombie by Bela Lugosi, right? We're talking about those kind of films. This was the first time about people that like rise from the dead and eat human flesh, and you have to shoot them in the head. This was the first time that ever happened.
You don't know how it started because they just appear, and it's like.
So that one will always stick in my mind because I remember, you're watching something your mom's not going to want you to watch, but, you're going to watch it anyway.
I love Night of the Living Dead. I love that one and Dawn of the Dead. We just covered Dawn of the Dead, actually, on the channel. Carrie, by the way, OUG, I love you so much, but, like, you got to get out here with that. Like, I love the 1990 Tom Savini directed Night of the Living Dead. But it is nowhere close to the original, in my opinion. But, it's just the way I feel.
OUG, I haven't seen it. I got to watch it for myself, and we'll talk, okay?
She's right, though. Barbara is awesome. Barbara's awesome in that one. And Tony Todd plays Ben, the Dwayne Jones character. And it's a really good movie, but that original, there's something about it that was a movie, Rex, that, like, scared me when I was a kid. Like, I was scared to watch Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead when I was a kid. I didn't even know about Day of the Dead, but if I would have watched Day of the Dead when I was a kid, I would have shit myself, bro. Like,
I will tell you, when we got home that night, right, I could not sleep. I looked for every excuse to stay up, right?
Oh, wow.
I would think of questions to ask my mom, and my mom's looking at me like, what is wrong with you? Go to bed, right? I'm like, no. Can we talk for a few? No. She's like, no, go to bed, okay? And I think I said something like, can I keep the lights on? She's like, fine, go to bed. And I found out keeping the lights on actually makes it worse because there are shadows all over the place in the room, right? So, but that's what I remember is all I felt like was there were zombies walking around outside or something, outside our building, outside the door or whatever. It was traumatizing. Now I know why my mom didn't want me to watch it.
She probably knew best, but, I'm glad that you got to watch it at that age and had such a visceral effect put on you, man.
It did. I got to tell you, it did. I got to figure out how to do this, but I'm going to send you a picture in the chat.
I'm trying to think of, was there a movie that, because I thought my parents actually did, most of the time, did a pretty good job of making sure me and my brother didn't see things we weren't supposed to see. But that, like, and then certain times would come, my dad's like, well, you're mature enough. It's just a movie. You can watch what you want. I'm trying to think, was there anything I knew that really struck a chord with me? Like I said, I had to beg them to let me see Sweeney. I remember, like, I know, Robbie, a few weeks ago we were talking about, I brought up Sleepy Hollow as another one I'd like to watch at Halloween. And I do think that was one where I tried to, again, I wasn't allowed to watch it till later. I remember kind of sneaking out of my room one night because my parents were up late and they were watching it. And I'm peeking out of my bedroom to, like, look down the hallway and see what they're watching.
Hell yeah.
And see why they didn't want me to watch it, because it was the scene where the horseman's attacking the family of 3 and he pulls the floorboards up and the kid's under there, and you don't see it, but that kid was a goner. So I remember seeing it, like, okay, I understand why they didn't want me to see that. I was like, I remember doing that specifically, just peeking and seeing what they were watching.
My parents were a little bit loose with me, like, growing up. Like, they would let me watch things, but, like, I almost, like, my mother, like, would get a kick out of me getting scared or something, right? Like, I was firstborn, right? So, like, they're like, a lot of people say the firstborn's the one where everybody, like, all the parents are like, oh, we got to, like, really, like, helicopter parent this thing and, like, take care of it. And then it gets less and less as more kids come around. It was the opposite for me and my siblings. It was like the babies were the ones that were babied and taken care of and coddled. And those of us at the top, we were just like, whatever. And a very famous story. My first experience in a movie theater is 1988. And I beg my dad to take me to the movies, and I'm begging him to take me to Child's Play. I told this story to Fiona Dorff. this week and or last week, who's in the Chucky series. Her dad plays the voice of Chucky, plays Charles Lee Ray. So my dad, my biological father, against my mother's wishes, takes me to see Child's Play. I start crying and screaming and freaking out in the theater. I'm 7 years old. And they have to pull me out of the theater, and we go see U2 Rattle and Hum instead, the U2 documentary. And so my mom finds out about it. So if anybody remembers the My Buddy dolls from the 80s, they're very much like Chucky dolls. They're very much like the good guy dolls, right? My mom took My Buddy doll and duct taped a knife to its hand and put it at the end of my bed while I was sleeping. And I woke up and I was like, what? I like freaked out, man. Like it was the craziest, man. But my mom always, she would encourage me. Like we would go to the video store and I would be like, I want to watch this movie. It was Sleepaway Camp Part 2 because it had a chick with like Freddy's glove and Jason's mask on a bag or something, right? And I was watching these gnarly movies at the earliest of age, just freaking out. And I just became obsessed with them. I feel like I've been, you have no idea how savage my mom is, Nick. You have no idea. I'll tell you another story about where she ditched me and my friends in the graveyard one time. All right, I'll tell that real quick. All right, so we're like it's Halloween night. We're heading to a haunted house, but on the way, I'm like, hey, Mom, can we drive the truck? I want me and my friends to sit in the back of the truck. Can we go get some eggs? I want to egg houses as we're driving. So my mom's like, okay, sure. You want to do the Halloween thing? So she's driving us around in the neighborhood. We're in the back of the truck and we're like throwing eggs at houses and stuff. And then we have a cemetery here in town. It's the oldest cemetery in Alabama. It's called Maple Hill Cemetery. And she drives us into that at night, which is illegal. You can't be there after sunset, right? So she's driving us through and then the truck stalls out and she's like, yo, I just ran out of gas. Like y'all got to take this gas can and go over to the gas station a few blocks down and fill it up for me. So we all hop out of the truck and she starts it up and just drives away and leaves us there for like an hour or something, man. It was like terrifying.
Oh no.
Scarier than any horror.
So check your email. I just sent you an email that is the current situation of our friend John. I was
looking at your list and you have Poltergeist on here, and I definitely remember seeing that movie, whether it was on, I think it was on TV, and it's one of my mom's favorite scary movies. I remember like that, those were definitely, again, early, like probably late elementary school. Like I've ever seen parts of that movie on TV and like, this is crazy. Like there's stuff sucking you into a closet and then there's the hole.
Amy, were you like me, Amy? And like, after I watched Poltergeist, whenever like the TV would go to that like white noise static thing, I would freak out. I would be like, no, change it.
I didn't do that, but I remember the certain scenes that would freak me out. Like I remember, again, I remember like the scene where the guy's having the vision in the bathroom and his skin starts coming off. I remember seeing that for the first time and I was like, ugh, ew. Like,
so, you know, the beauty of that film, I think, was several fold. I agree with you. But if you look at Poltergeist, there was that one scene. Okay, that was very, very scary.
That freaked me out the first time.
But really, if you look at the whole film, there are very few scenes like that. Maybe at the end with the rope and everything, but other than that, there wasn't. It was just a family. Obviously, they were freaking out. You could hear the sound of the kid's voice wherever. You know, there was the
real
paranormal team, but there was nothing really, no knife, no jumping out at you, none of that stuff.
A lot of the fear is like the parents, they want to save their kid and they're desperate. Yes. They're so desperate. They want their daughter back.
I think the one really, really unique technique that they used, and I thought it was very effective, was in most horror films, you know, you're out somewhere caught in the middle of the woods. Well, I'm never going in the woods by myself and getting lost, right? It's a cemetery. Well, I wouldn't go into a cemetery, right? But all of a sudden, they threw something very scary at you that every household in America has. A TV. Okay? We all got one of those in the house, and we've all seen the snow. Okay? So all of a sudden, they took something that is very common in an American household, and it turned it into something you would fear. I think that's the trick. That's what they did. That was so great, you know. But obviously 2, 3, whatever. Now it's just like
the other thing that gets me about that movie is at the end when they're in the swimming pool that they're building or whatever, right? And like all those graves start popping up, all those corpses and stuff. Like, oh my goodness! I remember being a kid and I just was like,
yeah, right. That's right. The pool they were digging. That's right. I forgot about that scene.
They all start popping up, and that's when you know it's a Tobe Hooper film because it's got the Spielberg feel to it, but that's where it really feels like Tobe Hooper for sure.
There was nothing that I think maybe that was another reason that I kind of turned off of horror films for a bit, because as you got into the 90s, you remember gore was the key factor. You know what I mean? The gorier the better, and that was what they would try to do to elicit that fear in you. And to me, that was a very, very surface kind of level. You're trying to scare me with gore. All you're really doing is you're desensitizing me to gore. Okay, so that okay, so the guy got stabbed in the eye. Oh well, that guy's brain exploded. Oh well, it felt so, basic. It wasn't like you were really trying to work at it. You weren't really trying to scare me, like invite me into an abandoned home and set up with noise and whatever and jump out at me. It's more like, hiding behind the corner as I'm turning and jumping out at me kind of thing. They were going for that effect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing I've noticed in this Horror Fest in particular is like those movies that scared me when I was a kid, they don't scare me anymore, right? I watch The Exorcist and I actually laugh because I'm like, that's funny what she just said, right? Reagan's just talking shit. You know what I'm saying? But like, those things terrified me when I was a kid. But on this rewatch of the Saw franchise, that's been the bits in Horror Fest that get me the most this year, is watching those Saw films. And it is the torture. It is seeing this stuff happen and being like, huh, like it kind of like brings that back. So it's almost like I became so desensitized that I need that now. I crave it. I look for like the most gnarly, grotesque movie out there. And if somebody pushes that boundary further, I really appreciate it for the most part. Even though I don't like the Terrifier series really at all, I do appreciate what they're trying to do there, but they're losing atmosphere. So like Saw has an atmosphere as well. And I know that it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I'll tell you this, on Monday night, everybody's going to be very surprised at how the PCP panel reacts to all of the Saw movies, because we've been having so much fun watching those damn movies. I cannot believe that they hold up so well.
Well, certain movies hold up well. There is one other movie on my list, actually two real quick. Another one, very much like Poltergeist, was really weird. It was in 1981, and I went with my mom to the movie theater. She wanted to see, as I said, she was a huge horror fan, and it was called Ghost Story. And I think you and I may have talked about it before.
That's a great movie, man. Yeah. The one with like Fred Astaire and yeah.
And my mom wanted to see it because she grew up with Fred Astaire, Douglas Fairbanks Jr., all these guys from that era. I call it the vaudeville era, because before they started making movies, they were all in vaudeville. So she wanted to see that because of them, and they were obviously the older guys. But the way they use that, very much like Poltergeist, they turn the story into a mystery, into a scary kind of mystery with a ghost floating around, and you're trying to figure out who she is. And turns out she was somebody that they had all killed and put in a car and pushed into the lake or whatever, years and years ago. So it was cerebral and it was scary. They used suspense as opposed to gore to make it scary. So I that was a film that I really enjoyed. Especially now. That's something I go back and watch.
That's a good bridge film, right? Like, where I think one of the points of that film is that they're trying to bridge that classic approach in sense with the new stuff coming up in the 80s, because it actually has some gnarly special effects for what it is, right? And it's also doing that traditional ghost story thing, and it's a good bridge between like the classic stuff and the modern stuff that was approaching. That movie's great.
So one last movie, which I thought was going to be a sleeper at the time, American Werewolf in London. It was the Dr. Pepper dude, so we all had to watch the movie because he does the Dr. Pepper commercials, and we all know him, and then all of a sudden he's in a movie. It was well done. I got to admit, that was the first time I saw special effects, and it was impressive because as the hair was starting to grow on him, man, that time lapse photography was awesome. That was really cool. So that one I enjoyed. With it used gore, but not an excessive amount of gore. I think, you know.
True. Again, you don't really see the wolf that much.
No, you don't. You don't until towards the end, and then
You see the violence afterwards, but
Yeah.
not it actually happening.
Yeah. So I thought that was good. I thought it was good to focus on the time lapse, the hair, his transformation. You know, that was cool. So that I don't think anybody thought was going to be the hit that it was, but it turned out to be a big hit, I thought.
And then you had the 1-2 punch in 1981 of American Werewolf in London and The Howling, and it just changed all of it, right? This is just great stuff, man.
Well, all of a sudden, the werewolf genre took on a new direction, if you know what I mean. You know, it used to be you didn't know who the werewolf was. You know, it was a human. You know, it's focused on other characters. You know, then people would get killed, or you see the werewolf, whatever, and the mystery is to figure out who is the werewolf amongst the humans.
Mm-hmm.
But this one focused on, we knew it was him, okay, the whole time, and we saw him and him struggling with it and trying to figure out what is going on, type of thing. And so it was a very different perspective. So you had empathy, I think, for the werewolf by the end, right? You know, to a certain extent, because you knew the human. So that was a different way to tackle it, and I thought that was a very novel approach for them to take.
Yeah, it's an absolutely great film because of that. All right, real quick, I'll run through some on my list. Return of the Living Dead, such a fun movie. I recommend it to so many people because it is genuinely kind of creepy and terrifying and scary at parts, but it's also just a romp, and it's fun. Day of the Dead, though, is my favorite zombie movie. I can't think of a more bleak, more gnarly Tom Savini at the height of his career. The special effects in that movie are amazing. Any Universal monster movie, Dracula, Bride of Frankenstein, those two in particular, but like The Mummy, The Wolfman, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Frankenstein, Ghost of Frankenstein, Son of Frankenstein, Mummy's Hand, I love every single one of them. Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein is one of my favorite movies. The original Psycho, and Psycho 2. Psycho 2 is so much better than it has any business being. A great movie to watch at Halloween time is Trick or Treat by Michael Daugherty, the anthology film that was released like 10-ish years ago or something like that. Absolutely fantastic movie. The Omen. I love The Omen. That movie gets me. The music by Jerry Goldsmith, the directing by Richard Donner, the performance by Gregory Peck, so amazing. A movie that gave me...
Who was the kid? The kid grew up to be... wasn't that the kid? The guy grew up in playing Jurassic Park. Well, who's the actor's name?
So it's not the actual kid from the movie, but in part 3, which is The Omen, the final conflict, it is Sam Neill. It's Sam Neill, and he plays Damien.
Oh, he played. That's right. That's why
he played Damien grown up when he becomes the ambassador, like his dad, and like I love the entire Omen franchise. To be honest with you,
I did.
The last movie that gave me nightmares. Actually, that's wrong. The last movie that gave me nightmare was actually Texas Chainsaw Massacre. When I watched it at the beginning of Horror Fest, there was something was like repeating, but this movie gave me nightmares for like a week last year. Videodrome from David Cronenberg. A lot of people look at that movie and they're like, "Oh, it's cool." No, that movie, for something about that movie gets to me. My favorite horror movie of all time has got to be Suspiria, though, by Dario Argento, the Italian horror movie classic. I love that movie. The atmosphere, the lighting, the music, everything about it so effectual. But the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life, Rex, when I was a kid, when the TV would go to static, I'd freak out. When The Exorcist was coming on, I'd freak out. But I never freaked out more than when I saw a T start being drawn on the screen, and it was Michael Jackson's Thriller video that like made me lose my mind when I was a kid. Like, I remember being so young, terrified of Thriller, y'all. It like just scared the shit out of me.
That was at that, that's a very prophetic moment, because that was when Michael Jackson was at his height. He was a super powerhouse star. Okay, he was as Taylor Swift is today, if not more. He was at the peak of his career at that point. You know, so because Thriller came right after Off the Wall, I think, and he had already made that first step with Off the Wall, and then when Thriller came out, he was just at his height. The guy had reached that superstar status. So that was incredible.
Do you know who directed the Thriller music video, Rex?
I do.
I do not actually.
Amy, tell him.
John Landis.
Oh, no kidding. I did not. Yeah, I guess I probably did know that.
The guy who did American Werewolf in London. Yeah.
Yeah, I probably did know that at some point because it was being pushed everywhere.
And the same makeup artist from American Werewolf in London, Rick Baker, did the makeup in that movie, which is amazing.
Yeah, I probably did know that at one point. Marcus, Twilight. No. Listen, Twilight to me is like Taylor Swift. I can appreciate that it's a very successful franchise that resulted in probably hundreds of millions, if not $1 billion in sales. But to me, just like I can respect Taylor Swift and her business acumen, don't like her music, didn't even watch Twilight, dude. Couldn't stomach it. The romance, team this, team that. Oh, please, get over it. Okay? Could not.
Our good friend John Spiliotopoulos is a huge Twilight fan, by the way. So just so y'all know.
Sorry, Big John.
I never would guess, but okay.
I never would have guessed either, but I'm not even kidding, man. He even told me, he was like, if you ever do Twilight, let me be on the show. And I was like, I don't know if we'll ever do Twilight, but if it gets you on the show, maybe.
I can actually picture Big John sitting there in his easy chair with a box of tissues watching Twilight and tearing up in certain scenes. That big burly mountain of a man. Okay.
Brittany's just like Brittany's just patting him on the back, being like, "It's okay, John. It's okay.
It's okay. It's only a movie, John. It's only a movie."
Heck yeah!
Oh my gosh, I wish Big John was here. That's too funny.
No kidding.
That's right, Marcus. I am Team Squirrel, and Team Possum.
And Marcus, Rat. I did mention a Hitchcock movie. I said Psycho.
Yes,
yeah, I like
yes,
Psycho.
You did. That was my mom's favorite, actually. I would say, I don't know if it was her favorite, definitely her top 5. She would talk about it all the time, what a great movie it was. So, needless to say, I've watched it a lot.
Perry, me and you, we're on the same team. I'm Team Edward. Screw Jacob. That's what a creepy. And you're right. Like, I think somebody mentioned earlier, like the werewolf transformation in Twilight. They turn into the cutest damn dogs. Like, what is going on?
My mom is still Team Jacob to this day.
I gotta tell you, I don't understand it. Not at all. Not even a little bit. I think my daughter wanted to watch it and she was at home and I watched like 15 minutes of it and got up. I couldn't even. I'm like, oh my God. I really seriously would rather watch, C-SPAN at this point, for some local government ordinance that's being discussed. I hate it. I couldn't.
Before we wrap up here, Rex, there we are, right there.
There he is. This, I will tell everybody that's watching, this is real time. This is actual real time. John texted me that at 12:37, and it's lunchtime. Is the caption underneath it? Yes.
Best time for a Guinness, right? So, John, hope you're enjoying that one. Amy, Rex, thank you for joining. We could talk for hours about this subject. I mean, we would talk hours every week just about horror films. I really like this conversation. Amy, we got to do this again.
Yes.
We got to do this again.
So what do you have coming up now? You got the whole Saw complete series.
Yeah, we got the end of Horror Fest. So tomorrow night, catch me on Dylan's Horror Show for Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Sunday night at 8 p.m. Central on PCP, we're doing Dracula. On Monday, we're doing the entire Saw franchise. And then Tuesday, Verno's ending it at Blood Splatter Chatter with Rob Zombie's Halloween. What y'all got coming up?
7 p.m. on the Experience. Of course, Nick has his original art show. Tons of art. Pieces that are very affordable.
Mark Bagley and a lot of Greg Capullo, Brett Booth.
I saw some really.
We're pulling out a bunch of Mark Bagley layouts that are going to be up for sale.
I can see 2 pieces for $100. All right, so very affordable prices. 3, 1 for $150. So for somebody just breaking into collecting, very budget conscious and friendly, and then of course, the more high end pieces, of course, will also be available. So 7 p.m. Eastern, don't miss it if you're an original art buyer or if you just like to see where it's coming from, man. on the XP. So
Absolutely. And we'll be live on Monday as well.
you'll be back on Monday with us. John will be back on Monday. Hopefully,
Can we just talk on Monday? Can we just
not
talk about stuff on Monday?
That's not up to us. But
It's
beyond that,
typically what we do, Amy. I don't know if you've watched the show before.
hopefully John has not had his noontime Guinness on that day. Or if he does, he brings me one. But yeah, so it should be fun.
All right,
Oh,
Rex,
Creep
Amy,
Show.
thank you. Wait, what?
Creep Show was very scary.
Oh, Creep
thank you.
Show's great. Creep Show's
Yeah,
amazing,
love
man.
that movie. Love that movie.
Yeah, a good topic for Monday for in between selling stuff would be maybe like Stephen King movie adaptations.
I like that. I like that one.
You know, because he was the writer of Creep Show. So that would, you know, I'm just saying maybe
I
think
love
about it over the weekend. You know, you can talk about Silver Bullets some more, Rex, you know. And
All right, so we'll continue on this conversation on Monday. Cool.
actually, all Monday show is going to be about the Twilight Saga. So everybody get caught up, and that's what we're doing. All right.
I'm gonna have to call out sick Monday.
You're going to have to, by the way, speaking of which, now that you know this, like tell Nick, like get Ken or somebody to do a Twilight like cover sketch and see what John Spilio does. You just wait.
Just
All
for
right.
John, we might do it. Just for him.
I refuse.
Absolutely. Rex, Amy, this was a great conversation. Thank you so much for being here. You that were watching it live, thank you for being here. If you're watching it on the replay, let us know some of your favorite scary movies to watch at this time of the year, the most wonderful time of the year, Halloween. We're